Doing now. And then Pam, you can go ahead and share your screen and get that video up and ready to go. Doing now. And then Pam. All right.
All right.
I'm going to shut your guys' mic and camera off, and I'll turn you back on in a bit. Good luck. Look forward to hearing your session.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn my mic and video off, and we're going to go. Hey, Jake. I kind of walked them through everything already. We just went live. You kind of know your part anyway, so we don't really need to walk through that. But as soon as we're done with the video, we'll jump back on.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yep.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-founder of Denver Startup Week. I'm so excited to bring all of these dreamers and visionaries together. Our country was built on capitalism, entrepreneurs drive that, and we could all use a little bit of dreaming right now. We're able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our sponsors. Join me in thanking our 2020 Denver Startup Week sponsors. Our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, JP Morgan Chase, Prologis, and Zero. Our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible. Battery 621 and the Public Works, Capital One Cafe, Colorado Lending Source, Friday Health, Quizlet, Exactly, Zayo, and Zestful. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement of this week to you. Thank you to Wix, Kenzen, MAPR Agency, Obsidian HR, Kickstart Fund, Promontory Mortgage, Molson Coors, and Comcast. And finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors. They're all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our virtual Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experience and moments of inspiration on social media.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at fridayhealthplans.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Jake Cohen, the Growth Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for our first ever virtual Denver Startup Week. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that we are more powerful when we come together as a community to share ideas and make each other better. And here we are virtually showing the world what Denver is made of. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, sexual orientation, and the intersectionality of identities. There's something for everyone at Denver Startup Week, and we thank you for joining us. This next session will expand our thinking on how we tie growth to making the world better and create more growth from it. Now over to Javon.
Click the video. Hey, how you guys doing? Thank you for tuning in to our panel. So today we'll be talking about sustainability and repairing the connection between capitalism and impact. I'm Javon Taylor, the founder of False Ego. We've been in business for about 2 years now, and we're really focused on customer empowerment, and sustainable initiatives. So I have my panel here. Ben.
Ben Herdesta, Denver native. Been working around the areas of finance and market research the past few years, a few different startups. Just joined Javon as an operator this past year and excited to share our perspective.
Yeah, Miguel De Jesus, also a Denver native, pretty much a background in marketing and communication analysis and strategy. Just hopped on with False Ego about a month and a half ago. I'm excited to propel the brand into sustainability.
Hello, my name is Corey Montalvo. I am the founder and chief plug, which is synonymous with CEO of Youth Empowerment Broadcasting Organization, or YABO, which is a nonprofit that serves youth in Denver and Aurora. We leverage the power of media to support them with developing into authentic and self-determined people. And we're excited to partner with False Ego this year.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. So regarding the topic of sustainability and just repairing the connection between capitalism and impact, let's break down some of the definitions. So sustainability, I mean, the textbook definition is the ability to maintain something at a certain rate or level. But I know regarding what we're doing, I think sustainability is about sustaining the resources, sustaining the community, and sustaining the creators. And, you know, we're talking on the growth track right now. And so regarding what we're doing and the ideas we're wanting to cover, resources translate into product, the community translates into the market, and the creators translate into innovators. And I think these are the three core principles of sustainability. And I think they're all three needed to, you know, sustain business, culture, and sustain a progressive society. So, so Ben, what do you think the definition of impact is?
I think with respect to how False Ego has been approaching impact, it's been much more intentional about what the long term looks like. I think with Javon's vision in mind, it's always thinking 10 years out from the garments he's using to the experience that the consumers have and the ability they have to recycle the garments, and even with every purchase, having the opportunity to plant a tree. And other initiatives with UCapture we've been able to partner with over the past couple of weeks, expanding what their opportunities are to shift towards carbon neutral. And I think being curious about what the long term is and intentional is how we are able to leverage impact in what we're doing.
Nice. I think that's interesting just because the term sustainability is usually seen as a connotation of nature and ecosystems and things like that, where you're kind of seeing it in a bigger frame of sustaining communities, sustaining just the system essentially, which I think that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it's all about. So when you talk about capitalism, you know, kind of break that down for me.
Yeah. Capitalism, I think, has kind of a 50-50 reputation, especially in America, where, you know, there's an idea of money is the root of all evil, which I don't necessarily think is true. Personally, capitalism, when I think of it, I see it as a tool for efficiently producing and consuming goods and resources. And also as a product of that, it also efficiently produces money. But I think especially what we're talking about today is that it doesn't have to stop there. It can progress into using those systems as a tool to then sustain the impact of kind of what you both are saying. And Corey, if you have anything to add on.
Yeah, I like the word tool. And that's what we try to engage youth with in our program is, you know, with capitalism, communism, socialism, all the isms and money are not inherently evil. It's the intention from which you come with it that makes it evil or good, right? Or effective. So money is a tool, and it allows us to, you know, really tease out what is scaling, what is growth, and going deeper and going more in depth in terms of what we want to define as impact. And capitalism allows us to do that.
Exactly.
Something I want to say with respect to this just growth track and False Ego being able to speak to this, not necessarily being a company at Denver Startup Week that is tech enabled or powered through tech, an opportunity that kind of isn't allowed for us to have growth over the past 2 years has been the power of community and platforms without necessarily having code, but just to be able to cultivate an experience for the audience to really appreciate and want to see the evolution of the brand as well. So I think that's key in terms of being sustainable is through that organic growth we've had. And just connecting with the audience for sure.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things to add on to that just be the authenticity that we've been able to display. I think really being authentic in every level of your business, you know, from your outreach to your supply chain to anything. I think that allows you to kind of create an organic following that follows you no matter where you are, you know. I think that's been the most beautiful thing. So like in your eyes, Ben, like how's authenticity kind of like how does it play into impact?
I think when you're being true to yourself and true to your brand, and part of that is wanting to grow and being intentional about growth, not necessarily wanting to have the highest number of revenues, but if a product doesn't come out a certain way, we start giving that out for free, because if it's not something that the market really needs to be purchasing, I think that experience and being authentic and saying, hey, it doesn't really fit what we want to put on for sale. Giving a customer a free product enhances their attachment to the brand, and they're going to want to continue to support. And it's kind of being okay with the imperfections. And I think that's authentic in its own, being okay that like, we're going to go back to the drawing board and draft something up and come back. And I think the community appreciates that and sees you for being true.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's important to like also take in what the company's original mission is, and not always focus on like the stakeholders or the shareholders that are involved in the company. I think that's where the bigger company they get involved with is it's no longer about the impact. It's about, you know, how can we continue to make more product and make more money? And when it comes to capitalism, I kind of think it also exploits that industry when it comes to like, yes, these margins and these sales are going up, but these wages are staying the same. And I think that's one of the downfalls of capitalism, is the exploitation regarding that.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where kind of reference to, you know, the money that's generated from capitalism isn't where the process has to stop. And I think False Ego, as an example, is committing to the authentic mission and values that you had mentioned, where we're committed to changing 1 million lives before selling 1 million shirts. And that, if I can term it, radical authenticity is the commitment to the values over the commitment to producing more money, which I think is inherently a better experience for consumers, supporters, whatever may be involved.
A question I have for Corey with respect to radical authenticity and you breaking into the nonprofit space and working in the education field, how is that translated for Yibo? In particular, with how you, interact with the other stakeholders within the school, and at the end of the day, the actual children that you're able to have an impact on?
Yeah, for us, righteous authenticity means showing up and showing out. And that's what students vibe with. You know, we could talk about product and all these things, but everything's in service of an experience. And so be your own liberation is our authenticity. And we understand that when we show up authentic, when we don't just put on the suits and ties and, you know, conform to the status quo, and we show up the way we want to, that translates to more users of our program. And I think that we are allowing our product and our brand to be carried by young people, because that's the emergent market and that's their future. And so for us, it's all about decentering ourselves and allowing ourselves to change and morph with whatever youth are interpreting as the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's so important. I mean, even when it comes to authenticity, like really giving kids something they can get behind, you know, start talking about marketing to Gen Z. I think it's so important to give kids impact, you know, from the moment they're able to have money in their pocket. Wow, like we should provide them options to have impact, you know, and not just, you know, 1% for the planet or these other initiatives that are super easy to attach to. It's like, how about we actually build systems that allow every dollar they spend to go to something towards their community, go to something towards their school, go to something towards their future. You know, how can we provide these systems? I think that's the question we have to hold these bigger companies accountable to.
I think something about you saying with Gen Z, like the moment they have dollars in their pockets, I think it even stretches beyond that to like these kids are on TikTok and they're the greatest organic marketers, and corporations aren't even having to deploy capital for that. It's just inherently based in some of the actual platforms are around. So I know one of the phrases or one of the designs we recently put out was culture is currency. And with that, I think that goes beyond somebody actually making a purchase, but sort of the aesthetic you provide and the inspiration that the kids have is going to be key for when it comes to a marketing channel. And yeah, giving them something to attach themselves to. And I mean, the company's only been around for 2 years, but that evolution is, I think, important for Gen Z, and seeing that the product is constantly evolving and the founders are constantly evolving is just as important to, I mean, having an actual product for them to purchase, but something for them to just view and evolve.
And also just viewing it from the standpoint of like the culture is the currency, not the money that comes in. It's like the culture you build, the community you build, the, you know, following you build, that is the currency, because that'll, you know, pay you back 10 times, you know, down the road. And I think that's what it's about. It's just kind of changing the perspective of how you view these income coming in.
Yeah, and also changing the perspective of how you view, whether it's a customer or user of your product. You know, oftentimes when we talk about youth, it's in a deficit-based mindset. We need to see them as asset-based, because they do want to change the world for good. They do want to inflict social good on their communities. And so that needs to be the essence and core of your mission and the product for them to buy it, from them to want to experience it.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for anybody on here. This is definitely more of a B2C audience that we're having. So I know some of the companies on here are going to be more for the B2B market. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. So you jumped in and you were looking for something different. Yeah. Sorry.
So let's talk about more about authenticity and how that really starts small but gains respect over time.
Yeah, I think that goes with, again, if we're looking for a future and sustaining our future market or our customer supporters, we have to look at what do they attach to for longer than just one purchase period or one session. We're not just trying to sell them one t-shirt. We're trying to, you know, create a lifestyle or a culture, which, you know, committing to these morals or these missions and values that we have may not necessarily appease a wide blanket audience at first, but we're more so, what was the term? Inch wide, mile deep. We're more so focusing our efforts to really concentrate and then build from there. And honestly, word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing or selling that can happen.
For sure. And so do you view like paid marketing as like a capitalistic way of, you know, getting a job done?
Well, I think it certainly has its merits. It works for sure, but I think to my point of, we're not just trying to sell the product, we're trying to get them into a lifestyle of sustainability, of impact, where they're not just buying one shirt and enjoying that shirt, we're inviting them into the lifestyle of false ego. So paid marketing, in short, it works, but I prefer for a long-term customer to develop those is through organic and authentic initiatives.
I have a question for you, Javon. Over the past 2.5 years, as you've been building out the brand, how have you like focused on marketing as a specific initiative?
I've kind of really just focused on, definitely haven't paid for any ads, but I think that's been cool. You know, it's been an interesting process of just, you know, really diving into the community, you know, going to these different meetings at random places and, you know, renting out places just to have community meetings and talk. I think the inch wide, mile deep theory is kind of something I just found out, like coined it that way, but it's something I've done these 2 years. I think that's what's allowed us to, you know, have this new space and have the impact that we've been able to make. Just like being able to have that face-to-face with people. I think that really matters, and like being able to ask people like what they want. You know, what do you want from the company? Like what's needed in your community and how can we do that? And getting the resources to make that happen. I think that's been the biggest thing. But yeah, so like Corey, I'm interested in, so with Yabo, so what's the most authentic way that you present to the kids to bring their ideas to market?
Well, for us, it's all about them, one, having the levity to experiment, you know, to change, to try things on a low stakes environment, to throw things at the wall, to fail first and fast. And so we want to make our learning environments a safe place to do that. Then we have to have their why. And so, you know, having that core of why you're doing what you're doing, and then pushing forward with iterating and going through a design process. But the one thing that needs to happen is they need to have a champion. That's one thing that doesn't happen in the schooling system often. And, you know, they're challenged in different ways. So what we found is you have to support them through and through and uplift their ideas, as wild as they may be, and allow that to emerge and change. So that's really our vibe and how we try to create a affirming learning environment.
Sure. So what do you guys think like the first step of repairing the connection between capitalism and impact is?
I think one of the first steps is customer empowerment. So giving the consumer an opportunity to contribute to certain initiatives that go beyond the point of sale. So integrating them into different ecosystems where they can actually have impact across the globe would be key. I think it no longer says like pay for this product and then thank you and get on your way and here's your receipt if you want to bring it back, but it's telling them, hey, this purchase is going to go much further, much faster through creating a platform. And I think that leads to organic growth, and organic growth is sustainable. So I think that's one of the key things is making the customer feel a sense of empowerment.
Yeah, I think it also comes down to just making these options accessible. You know, when we talk about our new partnership with UCapture, Ben, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so UCapture, they are a web plugin that is allowing companies to create a profile for their audience that they can log on to and download the web browser and use different discounts across a wide variety of companies. I think they have 25,000 partner companies. So there's discount codes applied to their purchases. And part of the proceeds of that go to the carbon neutral initiative that they choose. I think they have roughly 29, both here in the US and global. And regardless if the customers of False Ego are purchasing our garments, them being in the UCapture platform allows them to still fund different carbon neutral initiatives. And I think that goes to creating the community saying that, hey, like, we want you to live this lifestyle. We want you to be a conscious consumer. And that is more about staying true to the mission and values as opposed to trying to maximize shareholder value. So I think that is part of what repairing the disconnect between capitalism and impact is. It's going beyond just what's in our personal P&Ls, but changing the way that our customers really go about consuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think authenticity is really the key that I would want to highlight, because again, with the greenwashing of companies, or I think that's a pretty widespread identity that a lot of companies want to identify with, is a sustainable or eco-friendly system, but then the follow through isn't as authentic as the statement of the mission, which again, for marketing and growth, those performative acts are teased out a lot easier, especially in a digital setting where we get so much contact with a brand that we can see the inauthentic actions of, the 1% for the planet. We're picking on that one, but there's just other initiatives where you just stop at one initiative and throw that on the tagline to say, yeah, we're an eco-friendly company. But all your followers on social media see that you're not posting about sustainable initiatives. You're not trying to implement new systems or anything like that. You're just throwing up the, hey, remember, we're 1% for the planet or whatever that.
I think it's so hard to like hold companies accountable for these actions, because they talk about, oh, we'll start these initiatives, in 2030, instead of like right now. And it's like, how do you hold this big company accountable to starting an initiative 10 years from now?
I think that's important for Gen Z. They're calling people out on bullshit. That's just exactly what they're doing. And it's because they grew up with Google and they've been able to fact find since they were in kindergarten. So like their level of research is just inherent to how they consume. They don't like just look at a product and it's the first time they've looked at it. Typically when they go into a store, they've done their research and they're well aware of the different product lines and things of that nature. So being transparent is a necessity. I think currently, especially how we're operating, it's being inauthentic wouldn't work. So it's not even worth trying to even play with.
Right. What do you think the first step is to repairing the connection?
I think transparency is important. I think that can cultivate customer empowerment. And I also think understanding you cannot empower other people, they have to empower themselves. Mm-hmm. So I think if you approach this work through that, it's not only education and youth-based work, but just work period, and understanding that folks can literally empower themselves out of situations and into their dreams. I think that can help inform your product and how you approach the work.
Absolutely. So as a company, what responsibility does the company have for letting the customer or person empower themselves?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about, so we have asymmetrical relationships in business. We need symmetrical relationships. We need to feel like this is a relationship. And when you have a relationship, you are being informed on something and you're willing to change from that. So I think that's at least from my business standpoint, that's how we respond to youth and youth culture and what they're demanding, and not being so rooted in our way. It's their way, and understanding that community is our program, is the business. And so it's our responsibility to listen, but I think companies stop with listening. You got to start allowing yourself to grow with your community and user.
Yeah.
Before we move to another topic, are there any questions that people are pulling in with or topics in there?
With you guys, you working with youth and also being a sustainability company, how are you guys integrating the kids coming up into responsibilities of being a business owner or organizer for a organization? Putting kids in perspective to learn more outside of adultly responsibilities, basically.
So if I'm catching the question, it's how are we engaging youth with experiences that put them into, like, that offer chances for them to grow as leaders or business people. So our whole mentality is youth can do anything at a young age. First and foremost, they are CEOs of their own adventures, and put real money into their hands. Let them get dirty with capitalism. Let them spend unwisely and wisely, and then help them. We have a bunch of gatekeepers, and we got to get rid of gatekeeping, and we have to allow the youth to actually do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, providing access is super important, because like if you grow up and you're just a part of this society, American society, capitalist society, it's like you don't know anything different. So you get money, you do what's been done over the last 100 or so years. And it's like, you can't really tell somebody different, because it's like telling a fish he swims in water. Like you just grow up in this society and it's like all you know. So it's like, how do we create this new system where it's implemented in the kids' minds at a young age? Kind of introduce them to a new innovative way of thinking, innovative way of purchasing, innovative way of just consuming, honestly, in multiple ways.
And I think that's part of, the responsibility now in the 20s as we go forward is in the creators to create those platforms and create the channels where not necessarily just kids, but the overall audience has an opportunity to have an impact on the brand, and also have a way to alter, be empowered, right? I think it's giving them access to different tools and resources for that liberation. I think it's super important.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the access is different than doing it for them, which is what you were saying. Like, we don't want to say, give us your money and then we'll fund sustainable initiatives. We're not necessarily doing that. And then we don't also want to say, you go do it yourself. We're making it easier for them to do it. So they come, let's take younger people, for example, they love the clothes and things like that. So they're getting a piece that they love, but also through buying that item, it also plants a tree or helps a wind farm or something like that. We're not doing it for them, and we're not, facilitating a difficult system of sustainability. We're just making a easier channel for them to do it.
Absolutely.
I think there's a question.
Comment from Catherine says, environmental justice is social justice, is racial justice, is economic justice. It is all less overwhelming when you realize lifting up one cause also lifts others. And then Jaden asks, what inspires you to be yourself at work?
What inspires me to be myself at work? The team I'm around. I think that's super important, is having, solid people around you, and being around people who are authentic themselves. I think you're a product of your environment. And if you have people who are being authentic and strive to be that every day, then you have no choice but to be that. And I think kind of being unauthentic, you lose yourself over time. So I would say that's what kind of keeps me.
Yeah. What's up, Jaden? Jaden is he directs some of our programming. He's a wonderful 19-year-old. So Thanks for logging on. Jaden is an authentic young man, and our whole crew is. And the whole reason why we built a culture where we can be authentic, because I've been in spaces in education and other professional spaces where I've been dumbed down. I've been forced to conform to white supremacy. And so there's no other choice for me. This is something that we've built ourselves. And when you build something, you have the luxury and the freedom to do it your way. And if we're going to do it our way, then we're going to do it through a liberatory process mindset. So that is the call to my ancestors and all that they fought for. And so for me, there's no other choice but to show up authentically at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, again, authenticity, especially for this group here, we hold that pretty high on our values. And I think, especially in this situation, authenticity is easy just because I know everybody here really believes in the values and missions that we set forth. I think authenticity is extremely important in, any brand that is coming up today, because people are going to want to know who's behind the brand. They're not just going to want to know the brand. They're going to look who's running it, who are these people and what do they believe? And then again, they'll tease out that the people that are behind it aren't necessarily holding the values that the brand is. So I think in this case, it's easy, and I think it's a really important thing to have.
I have a question for Javon. Over the past, since you've started False Ego, I guess 2.5 years, what has been the most challenging part of your growth thus far?
The most challenging part of my growth of the last 2 years.
For the brand's growth, I guess. Not necessarily you as a founder, but the company and how it's trying to evolve.
I would say access to materials and access to capital, for sure. I would say those have been the biggest challenges. It's being a small business, not having any crazy funding behind what we're doing. It's interesting. We're not able to compete on certain levels due to the lack of resources, but we've made it this far. I think that's why the community has kind of been our driving force. That organic support we've been able to create, that's been the assistance that we needed, for lack of a better term. I would say those have been the biggest challenges, but we've been able to overcome through our community.
In running Evo, I was going to ask you a similar question.
Yeah, no, as I was listening, there's a lot of similarities in startup between nonprofit and for-profit. Access to capital, finding resources and people, getting traction and all those things. But I think one thing I've learned from you all in False Ego is this value of interdependence. You can't do this work alone, period. I'm not only just talking about an individual starting up something, but a singular company. And so that's the one thing that we have benefited from a medley of fellowships that we've been a part of, to finding dope community partners and industry partners. And with that, we've been able to find resources and get in-kind donations and find ways to access different services that we couldn't access alone. So I think this concept of community is vital.
For sure.
And it goes back to our root and to our mission as well.
For sure. I think innovation has been another portion that's really propelled us. It's just the fact that we came on the scene, not really worried about selling 1 million garments, but we were like, how can we use these garments or this product to transform our communities? And kind of having that at the core of everything we do. I think that's been the biggest thing, and kind of innovate the way the fashion industry is seen. Not only us being a minority-owned or Black-owned company, but also taking steps to have creative partnerships. There's not a lot of companies out there planting trees for every product they sell. There's not a lot of companies out there taking the extra step to have customer empowerment, partnering with UCapture, partnering with Tree Nation, recycling their garments, giving their customer option to send back their garments after they're done with them, to have a zero waste business model. It's like the innovation is.
Well, and even aside from, to go back to sustainability, we're not just sustaining resources.
Exactly.
We've got, we've built a system to include local creators to sustain innovation and creators. And then, it's just reaching far more than resources. It's
Absolutely.
sustaining the environment.
Yeah, it's key. I think we have to, create platforms for creators, for innovators, because that's who pushes the needle forward. It's like if there were no other creators and we're still focused on, the Walmarts and the Amazons and this old money, it's like there'd be nothing new. We continue to get on the same system and things be way worse than they are. But you have companies like False Ego, you have companies like Yabo, you have companies that are really doing, other creators and artists, around you that are doing amazing things. And I think that's what pushes the needle and that's what changes the culture for the better.
I think just us occupying the startup space here in Denver and not being powered through tech, I think one consistent, two consistent pillars rather that are going to be key for us to thrive and have been thus far are the level of resiliency we all possess and then the resourcefulness. And that goes into sustainability as well.
For sure.
But yeah, I think honing in on those two are how we're going to be able to sustain the growth we've had and then continue to accelerate it. I think now with us opening up the pavilion here in the 5 Points neighborhood, the audience is now going to be expecting a higher quality of the garments, of the content, of the overall consumer experience. And I think still tapping into the resourcefulness through leveraging the community is going to be imperative for sure.
I think that's another side of innovation, creating a pavilion, that's a clothing store as well. That's innovation at its finest. And I think that's what separates it. And I think that innovation is what repairs the connection between impact and capitalism.
Without being an exploitative measure or exploitative tool.
Exactly.
Sure.
Just to add on one point, I think the authenticity drove because you weren't looking to replicate a clothing brand. Yeah. You had an authentic mission and then developed a system that happened to turn into this.
And that's one thing I want to highlight. Like authenticity equates it's evolution, right? It's your willingness and ability to evolve. And I see in this space evolution happening on a week-to-week basis.
Did not look like this last week.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. But even the people that are coming in and how you all are thinking about impact and different ways to plug into community and have community plug into you. I think that's important is that we see so many businesses just stagnate and try to stick with something for a long period of time. You have to evolve your way of thinking, particularly around COVID, and we have racial rebellion. We have so many things happening. And I think that's why we're focusing on Gen Z so much, because they have shown the most effective ways to subvert systems, to subvert racism. And so if we allow ourselves to learn from them, then we can better evolve as business.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of the biggest things I've learned over this time, especially marketing to a younger generation, is just I think really sustaining the resources, sustaining the companies around you, sustaining these creatives. I think that's a key portion of sustainability. Also sustaining that community that really supports you, and also sustaining the creators, man. We have to sustain the innovators. We can't allow Colorado to be a place where people always want to outsource resources, or have to be a place where they have to go to New York or LA or Atlanta or wherever to feel like they can make it. I think the sustainability is keeping these creators, keeping this love, this innovation in this hub, and then seeing what the product is out of that.
I would also add to that, it might be a problematic take, but in order for Colorado and Denver in particular to transcend and get on those larger markets, I think it takes being okay with the transplants coming and finding a way to evolve with the new market that's coming and the new faces, not pushing them away just because they look different or they might be from a different area.
And they're coming here to build. That's the thing. They're coming to Colorado to build. They are not coming to just chill.
How do you integrate them? And also there's a responsibility for folks coming in. You have to learn community and understand community is plural. Right. And that it's very dynamic. And so I think there has, once again, that reciprocal relationship of welcome, here's who we are, and then also a hunger to discover who's here and what's needed.
For sure. Absolutely.
I was just going to say, in terms of growth in between, let's say Denver, for example, we were speaking with a influencer friend who has a substantial amount of followers and gets a good amount of likes. And he said when he comes out here, it's not seen as valuable as on the coasts, New York and LA, where I think that's kind of what we're talking about here is the organic side of that, where it's not just social media, it's also the experiences that you create. But as an example, social media is that organic, every day seeing a post, seeing your progression. And that itself is valuable, especially for not only Gen Z, but other people that use the apps, because they see that growth and get to go with you. So I think organic in many ways is undervalued.
Oh, good point. Oh, any questions?
I see like one of the things we had in our agenda, I guess it's more of an open-ended question, but why do you think paid marketing is still like a relevant tool, I guess, in today's marketplace?
Because it's convenient. I think it's very easy to access. You know, you don't have to put much effort into paying Facebook or Instagram for whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can just make a couple of clicks and it takes money out your bank account and you hope to see results. You know, but I think the organic marketing takes more effort. You know, it takes reaching out. It takes having conversations with people. It takes, you know, being organic in your process and like being able to like face criticism. You know, I think that's what organic marketing is.
I think it's one, especially for, we're talking about capitalism, which is about efficiency, about results, where organic at first may not have the biggest result. It may not have the biggest return. It might be a little bit risky. It takes more effort. So I think in that sense, yeah, companies are looking for the most efficient way to get their product in front of somebody's eyes, but I don't think it's necessarily the most powerful.
Yeah, you have to have that lasting impact. You have to be able to dive into the relationships with the people that support you.
I find that interesting, just you saying it's convenient and the portion of having to actually sit down and connect with people. Of some people who came into this the pavilion earlier this week who made a purchase, and I noticed that you took the extra time to have a conversation with them, break down more of the garments, and honestly just give more of your time and space to those customers. And I noticed when I went back on the social channels, within maybe 10, 15 minutes, they went straight to Instagram and gave the most beautiful, authentic marketing post, tagging you and talking about how cool the products are, showing out some of the vendor products. And I thought that was powerful. Like the friends of that group who are going to see that post are going to want to come down and support and see what's going on here at False Ego.
That post was more powerful than if we made a Instagram ad or
it just pops up.
Whereas I think those ads at times, and I'm speaking as a consumer in this, sometimes they're like just noise that are cluttering up my feed. And even, I mean, I think even with like my niece, and she gets the YouTube ads, like she knows she's ready for that 5 second to go and get rid of that ad. So I think, but when you see your friend actually speak about a product and show passion around
you'll listen to it.
You'll be a lot more inclined to actually go onto the page, see what they're talking about, who the founder is.
Especially if they had a powerful experience, and they'll be more enthusiastic about it.
Definitely.
I think we've got, we'll take a question.
Andrew says, it sounds like you're taking a whole enchilada approach to integrating business needs with community needs. Is there a space here to collaborate with food sheds and urban farming? I'm thinking of filling basic living needs in a community.
Wow.
Well, I will say, Javon is the urban farmer on the side low. I had to help him get rid of urban farming as his day job so he could really focus on False Ego. So
I'm an urban farmer myself. His name's Andrew.
Yes.
This is Andrew.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew, I'm an urban farmer myself, man. I personally work for Frontline Farming and MHCD at the Dahlia campus. I think that's super important, man. I think adding that value into communities is really important. I think one initiative we're going to hold here pretty soon is we're going to get some food boxes of fresh produce to some homeless people out here. And one thing I'm really passionate about is, giving people access or food access in food deserts. You know, in the neighborhood we're in right now, we're literally sitting in a food desert. And I think it's important to find access for these different, for the food boxes, and different produce.
That's an important question. We're talking about ecosystem. Ecosystem, again, is about interdependence.
Exactly.
If I work with youth inside of schools and we want them to live their full selves and we want them to create business in these things, they can't do that if they're hungry and they don't have healthy food, right? They can't do that if they don't, if the lights don't work, you can't do your homework, right? So all of this is an ecosystem of needs that we have to collectively try to tackle.
Sure.
And I think, so in our, some of our structure, we've implemented that for each item purchased, a tree gets planted. So I think it could be something similar where working with a local urban farm, or working with some deal where each purchase or each session something goes directly to that, where I don't think it should be too hard to integrate something like that if that's what you're looking to.
And I think
I would encourage Andrew to reach out, email one of us. You can email like Javon Taylor at falseego.eco. I'd love to talk to you, more about what you want to know, and think about ways we can collaborate for sure.
Yes, he's got a second question that
Sure.
I think deserves a little more time and thought. So I feel like, we should.
For sure. Please, what's the question?
It says, more personally, I'm in a fractional financial services company, and we have a challenge to provide affordable bookkeeping services and have been looking outside of the US for low-cost bookkeeping. I think we may be looking in the wrong place. Could we build out a bookkeeping service in our own backyard? Could we combine this need with developing entry-level bookkeepers and do it without taking advantage of them, without creating a bookkeeping sketch?
Gotcha. Yeah, Andrew, definitely come by the shop.
yeah,
definitely come by the shop. I'd love to talk about this in person.
But I will say, like, without a doubt, we can, and that just comes down to education and desire by both the people operating it and those who would like to have more knowledge work or knowledge-based work. But yeah, for sure, come by the shop, Andrew.
Yeah, and a lot of that too is piloting and growing something with people. Like, don't just come with the idea and then implement it on folks. Allow yourself, like, you have a morsel of an idea, just start doing stuff with people. And then I think you'll create an authentic product, or at least have the ability to.
Sure.
I guess just to pivot the conversation real quick, this is for both you, Corey and Javon. As founders, how do you plan on taking sustainability with you for the next 5 years of your enterprises? And how does that play into, in particular, the growth marketing strategy?
Yeah, no, I think, sustainability is so broad, so you have to break down what part of sustainability.
And I think we broadened it earlier by away from just the nature thing, but
yeah, for sure. So sustainability as in like community and resources, or sustainability as in like I'm making eco-friendly products?
More particular, the community and resources.
Yeah, I think creating more channels to connect with our community, and also creating more streams of impact for each customer. I think that's really going to be sustainable, or make our business more sustainable. Not only can they buy products, but they can tune into e-courses. They can tune into different streams of information. And like, as False Eagle becomes more of a thought leader in the space of sustainability, I think that's going to be really important for sustainability as well, of the business. Yeah, that's what I would say. Creating more channels.
Yeah, for Yabo, I think about sustainability beyond myself as the executive director. I also think about one of our goals is to make ourselves obsolete. If we fulfill our mission, then we have a bunch of youth who are self-determined, who are doing for themselves, and who are inflicting our mission on the community themselves. And so we shouldn't remain the same. In 5 years, Yabo should not be the same model. It shouldn't be in this iteration. It should have a new executive director, evolving it to another state of existence. And if that doesn't happen, then we're not effective in what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key to that is kind of just building systems.
Yep.
Not just having like the founder, the CEO be the person who hoards all the information, all the skills. It's like, how do you build a team that can run a system, under what you found. I think that's important. Like, how can you go to another country for 6 months and your business still run? I think that's gonna be that's sustainability at its core. Sustaining something, maintaining it at a certain rate or level. And how can you build a system to have that happen?
Or even if False Ego is, evolves into something else and leaves the space, hopefully we will have implemented a culture where something like False Ego takes up a sustainability place.
Yeah, and like, okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was like, also just creating a system where, like, these people who support, start their own thing. They go off and they're inspired by what False Ego or Yabo brings to the table, and like, I want to, create something similar, create something in that realm in my own community, in Japan, or really like taking it global as far as like, we don't want this to stay in Denver. we want the impact to be global. We want the impact to be worldwide, and to create other creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say this work as a founder is a contradiction, because you have to have enough ego and to think that you could do this and start something, a business. You have to have enough humility to understand it's not all about you. You can't do this yourself. So you have to decenter your ego and know when to do that and know when to uplift it. And so it's a constant dance. And I think about how many times I've seen entrepreneurs say, this is my thing, this is my baby, and I'm going to own it, right? Once you start something up and you bring community in, it's not yours anymore, it's ours. And so I think that's the gift that you have to sustain this in the right way.
That's true.
Just creating more ways for your community to get involved. I think that's the biggest thing. I think that's the next step we're looking to move towards, is like, how can we get our community more involved in our process? You know, because I think that is going to be the key going forward. As we grow our community, how can we involve them? You know, because I feel like if your community doesn't feel like they have a stake in what they're supporting, then it's like they're no longer long-term customers or long-term supporters. But if you have them, you know, feel like they're having a piece of the pie, I think that's important.
Yeah, interesting. Finding the way for your users or your customers, whatever the platform is, to have meaningful contribution creates the loyalty. That is the marketing right there. Like, you don't really have to go out and pay for whatever ads. I think it's just integrating them into what you're building.
And finding multiple ways to stimulate them. You know, not only buying something, they can tune into an e-course, they can tune into YouTube, they can come to an event, they can work with your partner, they can, with UCapture, they can support other businesses and still have that same impact.
Some of your community service projects as well. I know we're going to be coming out with some more in October, and it's just giving people an opportunity to just help. I think that's what everybody wants, to be able to contribute and help others. Exactly. So I think providing the channels for them to do that is key.
Because I'm a big believer in, like, if you tell somebody something, they'll forget. If you show them, they'll think about it. But if you expose them to it and have them be like a part of it, then they'll remember. I think it really sticks with them.
I got a question.
You got a question?
So, yeah, in the information age, where so much information is being thrown at people all the time to the point where they come down to it, what makes the information that one ego and false ego is giving out something that sticks to the mind?
Nice.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with that is, like, I'll repeat the question of, the question was how in an age of digital age where information is just being thrown at people all day, it's like, how do we separate ourselves and, getting quality in our information? And I would say that we separate ourselves by just giving information that hits home, not talking about just like global initiatives that people can support, not just planting trees in Tanzania. We're also talking about how we can clean water in Denver. We're talking about different logistic or transportation sustainability in Oregon, like domestic impact. It's not all about who we can help in other countries. It's like, what can we do in our own communities? Because that translates into your nation, translates into other countries. You have to start small and like inch wide, mile deep with where you're at.
I think that goes to show for both of you guys just extreme ownership in owning what goes beyond just the supply chain and what happens to the brand post the sale. Like, how are the community still involved? I think that leads to conscious consumerism when the owner is taking a stance on how he wants the system to be developed and really the principles that he wants the audience to carry.
For sure. And like highlighting the individual behind the initiatives, I think is super important. I think that's what hits home with a lot of people as well. Because we can talk about these broad concepts and these broad ideas, but until you know the person behind it and the motivation behind it and the community that it serves, it doesn't hit, so that'd be my answer.
Yeah, mine is, it's not efficient, but learn community deeply. You got to root yourself in the places that you're serving to understand what's important and what particularly for us is, what do young people look for? And it's not just young people in one blanket statement. What's important to a fifth grader is different than what's important to a high school junior. There's different aspects of reciprocity. So we learn that and we pilot with them, and then we have them inform us what's valuable to them. And that's, very few people are doing that. And it goes back to this marketing. How much money is being poured into just these blanket ads that are targeting age groups between 14 and 24, right? People of color. And it's just like monolithic, and it's not specific. And so what big corporations don't want you to do is retain that money and do the deep work with your community and put that money back into our people.
Taylor, you have a question that's coming in from me? No?
I think we have 5 minutes.
Oh, we're on the last 5 minutes? Okay. No. Does one just come in? No.
I think one thing to also highlight is when we talk about Gen Z, people always automatically think it's like a 14 or 15-year-old. It's like I'm 25 years old and I'm technically part of Gen Z, and it's like we are the new wave. You know, I think it's important for Gen Z, the older population of Gen Z, to take accountability for the future, because we are the future. You know, and I think I don't see everybody who's living right now. It's like we are the future, so it's important for us to take accountability for that.
Yeah.
And it's important for people targeting Gen Z to really focus on, like, these are the new creators. Like, these are your new empowered citizens that are going to be voting, that are going to be consuming, that are going to be building the new businesses, building the new social media platforms, the new technology going forward. So it's like, that's who you need to target.
Agree wholeheartely. Now the founders and operators of Gen Z are starting to hit the marketplace, and it's no longer kind of, the 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds, but it's actually the individuals that are now actively looking for capital and actively looking to build. And as the 20s evolve, I think we're going to see an abundance of just Gen Z talent translate from being consumers to creators at a high pace, even more so, especially leveraged with the power of the internet.
Sure. And as a millennial, a little bit older, my role is more about, it's more about providing that access to younger generations, right? I'm not going to empower younger people. They have to do that themselves, but it should be easier in certain ways. I'm so tired of people saying, well, you got to go through the hustle too. You got to go through the struggle too. No, this is how generational wealth is built, right? It's easier on the next generation. And so that's my job as an entrepreneur and as a leader, is to provide more access. There's still going to be challenges, new worlds to navigate, but they shouldn't have to go through the same BS that I'm going through. Yeah. And if they do, then I failed.
Yeah, I think, to that same point, like Javon kind of did the same thing, where he was talking about the struggles he had was resources and funding. And at a certain point, he's now then relegated to helping out other local creators with something that he's had trouble with, not doing it for them, not making the candles for them. We're not, planting trees for people, but we're also not making it a scavenger hunt to make these things done.
Right.
Got a question?
We'll take the question.
Got a question, yeah.
Last question. Gina says, great panel, we need more of this. I'm getting more involved in community initiatives like this from a permaculture perspective, as well as real estate investing and overall awareness. How can people get more involved in what you're doing? Partnerships, social media, collaboration, investments.
2650 Walnut, Denver 80205, the False Ego Pavilion. My bad, I don't mean to do it through promo run, but we're at the end, so.
Yeah, please.
If you're not leaving your house.
If you're not leaving your house, I would love to schedule a meeting if you want to learn more about different community initiatives we have going forward, or you want to meet with us and talk ideas. Please set up a Zoom call with us. Please come by the shop. Ben, said the address. We can also reach out on social media. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, it's false_EG0. And you want to shout out?
Yeah, you can. I think the best way for us is to champion our youth and their voice. So you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Yebo Lab, YEBO Lab. And then we're going through a whole rebranding process, and there's going to be a lot of events and activities and material coming out over the next couple of months. So you can tune in that way.
Nice. I think that was specifically how you can get involved with what we're doing. If you're looking to build a similar situation yourself in whatever industry you're in or whatever venture you're trying to do, we can definitely sit down and talk further. It's a little bit of I would just look for partnerships of sustainable businesses that are authentically living those values. I think is powerful.
And also, if you guys have any other speaking opportunities you would like us to speak at regarding these topics or just community involvement, we would love to do that as well. So please reach out. You can visit our website at falseego.eco. All the links have been put in the chat. So if you want to check out the chat, they're in there. Shout out Taylor. And man.
Thank you guys for taking the time to watch us on this panel. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.